All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle one of the most famous and honestly one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of economics. We're talking about the invisible hand. It's this really powerful concept that tries to answer a huge question. How does order come from what looks like, well, complete chaos? So let's just start with the big puzzle, right? The central question the invisible hand is trying to solve. Just think about it for a second. Your local grocery store. It's got thousands of products, right? From literally all over the world, just sitting there waiting for you. So, who organized all that? Who's the genius in charge, making sure the coffee from Colombia and the avocados from Mexico all show up? The answer, and this is what's so wild, is nobody. No single person. Okay, so how on earth does that work? Well, we're going to break it down. Here's the game plan. We'll start with the paradox itself. Then we'll look at the engine, the mechanism, the final result, and, you got to stick around for this, the fine print. All right, first up, the paradox. Let's really get to the heart of this. The core question is just how? How can a system with no boss, no central planner, create something so complex and orderly? It seriously feels like magic, but it's not. It's actually a really fascinating idea about how systems can organize themselves. So here's the definition. At its core, the invisible hand is this mechanism where everybody just looking out for their own self-interest ends up creating a super efficient market. And the key is, it all happens without some big central command telling everyone what to do. It's the idea that order just emerges from millions of tiny individual decisions. And what's really interesting is where this idea comes from. It's from Adam Smith, way back in the 18th century. But here's the twist. He wasn't just an economist, he was a moral philosopher. So this huge economic theory actually started as a question about how people can cooperate and what it takes for a whole society to flourish. It wasn't just about the money. Okay, so let's zoom all the way in. We're going to look at the smallest, most fundamental part of this whole system, the individual. Because really, the invisible hand isn't one big hand. It's the combined effect of millions and millions of very real, very visible hands making choices every single day.
This is it, the atomic unit of the whole thing, the individual hand. It's you, it's me, it's any person just trying to make the best choice for themselves, weighing the trade-offs. Every single time you decide what to buy or where to work, you're optimizing for your own benefit. You are literally the engine that makes this entire system go.
But wait, this is a really, really important distinction we have to make. When Adam Smith talks about self-interest, he's not talking about pure, greedy selfishness. It's not about acting without caring about anyone else. It's what we could call disciplined self-interest. Think about it. To do well in a market long-term, you can't just rip people off. You need a good reputation. People have to trust you. So that need for trust and those social norms, they actually guide and constrain that self-interest. Okay, so if we've got millions of individuals acting as the engine, the next big question is, how do they coordinate? I mean, they're not all getting in a room and making a plan. So how does it all work together? Well, the answer is pretty amazing. It's like they're all speaking a powerful, unspoken language. And that language is the market price. The price is the core information signal. It's this one little number that instantly communicates everything you need to know about scarcity, about what people want, about how much something costs to make. It tells millions of different people all of that all at once. Like if the price of lumber skyrockets, that's the signal. It's screaming to builders to use less and to lumber companies to produce more. No memo needed. And it creates this really elegant little dance, It's simple. A buyer needs something. A seller has it. The market price connects them, like a bridge, and they find that sweet spot, that balance, where trade happens, and ideally, both of them walk away better off. Okay, so that's the micro level. Now, let's zoom back out, because this is where the magic really happens. When you take that simple little interaction and you multiply it by millions, or even billions, something absolutely incredible starts to happen on a huge system-wide scale. And you can really see the difference when you put it side by side with a centrally planned system. In a planned system, you get commands from the top down. But in a market, resource allocation is guided by prices. A planned system is rigid, while a market is constantly learning and adapting through profit and loss. It's the difference between trying to fulfill one planner's goals versus trying to discover what millions of people actually want. And this, right here, is the really mind-bending part of the whole idea. The big result is what we call spontaneous order. It's an outcome that nobody actually designed or intended. Think of the classic example, the butcher, the brewer, the baker. They don't provide you with dinner because they love you. They do it out of their own self-interest to make a living. But the beautiful, unintended consequences, you get dinner. So, the end result of all this spontaneous order is something economists get really excited about: market efficiency. It means that resources, we're talking everything from labor to lumber to capital, tend to flow to where they're valued the most. It's a system that, in theory, allocates things in a way that creates the most value and cuts down on waste.
But, and this is a huge but, we have to talk about the fine print. Because the invisible hand isn't some law of physics. It's not magic. It only works under certain conditions. It needs the right kind of environment to do its thing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The invisible hand actually relies on a whole invisible infrastructure to work. What do I mean by that? Well, first, there's trust. It's like the invisible currency that makes contracts and deals possible. Then you need a legal framework, things like property rights and the rule of law. And finally, you just need enough people in the market, a quorum of buyers and sellers to make things competitive. And here's where we hit some real limits. This is a big one: externalities. Think of it this way. A factory makes a gadget for a cheap price. Great. But what if it pollutes the local river while doing it? That cost, the polluted river, isn't included in the price of the gadget. It's an external cost. That means the price signal is sending incomplete information, and the invisible hand can't properly account for the true cost of production. And then there are things called public goods. This is stuff like national defense or clean air. They have two key features. You can't really stop someone from using them, and one person using them doesn't stop someone else from using them. So how do you sell that in a market? It's really hard. The logic of the invisible hand kind of breaks down here, and that's often where we see a role for government or other institutions. So what's the big takeaway here? The invisible hand is this incredibly powerful idea for how you can get order from chaos. But, and this is what I want to leave you with, it's not a law of nature. It all depends on that invisible currency we talked about earlier: trust. When that trust runs low, the whole system starts to wobble. And that really makes you think, doesn't it? What happens when that trust starts to disappear? And what are we as a society doing to protect it?